Hello, hi friends, my name is Nilesh. In this video, we are going to talk about how to use the automation to automate subtitles in a YouTube video. Now, you might be wondering why do we need to automate the subtitles part for YouTube video? If you have published YouTube video anytime, you know that it is quite cumbersome, or at least it's quite challenging to publish the subtitles. It's not so challenging if you are supporting just one language where you translate the closed captions into just from, let's say, your native language, which in my case is English, to another language like French. But if you have to do it for multiple languages, then it can be quite tricky. So let me show you the workflow that I follow when I publish the subtitles for the videos that I publish on YouTube. So let me switch to the browser here, and we can see what are the steps involved. So the first thing is, let me go into the channel content where we log into the YouTube studio, which is the interface which provides us different facilities to update the videos or to manage our videos which we publish to YouTube. So here I have the list of YouTube videos which have been published in the past, and I have things like the playlist, analytics, and various other things. Now if I want to update, let's say, the subtitles for any of these videos, I click on the related video and I go into the details. So I've already selected one of the video here, and then when we go into the subtitles for that particular video, it will show us the list of the subtitles which are applied or which are currently available for this video. Now I've already published these subtitles, that is why we can see things like Malay, Vietnamese, Thai, Spanish, and various other languages here and their respective subtitles. Now assume that the first time you publish a video, there would be automatic subtitle which is generated, and this is highlighted using the video language or automatic. Now the automatic subtitle creation works based on the YouTube's own way of generating the subtitles, and I always go and duplicate this and edit it because I want to make sure that the way it is converted, the subtitles is correctly converted into English. Sometimes it happens that I talk maybe a bit faster or I use some technical terms, and then the conversion doesn't happen as expected. So in those cases, I go and edit what has been automatically generated, and then I publish that particular version in English. Once I have the English version, then I go and download the subtitles file. And in the downloads option, if I click here, I get multiple options to download the file in different formats. So these are the different formats which are supported when it comes to the subtitles. There is a web VTT file, there is SRT file, and there is a SPB file. I used to use the SRT format, and in this particular video we are going to switch to VTT, but I will show you the existing process or the earlier process that I was following. So I would download the file in the SRT format, and it would be downloaded in my downloads. Now once this file is downloaded, I use the subtitles translator to translate that file. Now this is another web page which allows me to translate the files. There is no automatic translation here, so I need to update or upload the subtitles file and then go and change the language. So let me just refresh this page, go into the subtitles translator, and earlier when I was using this, there was no option to select multiple files, but now recently the UI has changed and it allows us to select multiple files and also multiple formats. So we can use WebVTT in .vtt format or the subrip format in .srt file. So let's go and select the file which we want to translate. So in the upload, from my downloads folder, I will upload that file, the SRT file which I've just now downloaded. and the file is captions.srt. I select this file, I upload it, and then in the next step I select the language. So I have to click next here. Once the file is uploaded, then I get to choose which language I want to translate. Since I selected just the normal one, I will be presented here only with one option to select the language, but in the new option, the multiple language translator, we can add multiple languages. So for now, let's go and select just one language, and let's say I want to use Afrikaans as the language to translate my subtitles. Then I click on the translate button. This will translate the file depending on the content of the file. It could take a bit longer, but here the file is very short. And then I can still go ahead and accept this if I want to edit the contents which have been translated, but I don't want to edit anything. I just say cancel, and then I click on the download. And then every time I click on download, I'm presented with this option to donate. I just want to download it without making any donation. So the file will be downloaded. Now I have the file downloaded in the translated format, which was Afrikaans. Let's go into the downloads folder again and check that we have the downloaded file. Now you can see that it is in the zip format. A new zip has been created here, so I need to unzip the contents of this file. So right click and unzip this. You can unzip it in any location. I'm going to unzip it in the current location itself. Extract all, and extract all the contents into this same location, downloads, and then the name of the subtitles file. Once the contents are extracted, the next step for us is to go back to the YouTube Studio and then go and upload it. Now I won't upload it as such, but I will show you the steps again because it's a manual process. I go into add language here, and then I select the language that I want to add a new subtitle file for. So since we translated this into Afrikaans, let me select Afrikaans as the language, and now the Afrikaans language has been added. Next we need to add the file or the translation. So when I click on the add, it will give me the option to select the file, or I can again type manually within the UI here itself, but we will use the upload file option here, and then we select the file. So since the file that I chose, SRT file, has the timing, I need to select with timing option and then continue, and then select that particular file from that extracted folder. And this I need to do for each and every language that I want to use the subtitles for. So you can see that it is quite a manual process which involves a lot of clicking, and it also involves a lot of steps which we have to switch between different web pages, between our downloads folder, the extracted folder, and on an average, depending on the number of files that I want to support or number of languages I want to support for my YouTube video, it used to take me anywhere between half day to 1 day. So here I've tried to summarize whatever flow I showed you just now. We start with uploading the video, we generate the titles, then we download the English subtitles after reviewing if we have to make any changes to the automatically generated subtitles. Then we upload it to the translator, we select one or more languages, that generates a zip file, which again involves many clicks and many manual steps. Then we extract it, or we download that zip file first, then we unzip it, and then again going back to the YouTube Studio, we add one by one the languages that we want to add the subtitles. So looking at this, we can see that it can be really boring sort of task, and we all want to automate this kind of mundane task. So I started looking for how we can go and automate this. I came across one very good article which was written almost about 4 or 5 years back by one of the Microsoft cloud developer advocates. His name is Frank Boucher, and he created a logic app which would do a similar thing for his YouTube channel. So he is a native French speaking person and he wanted the subtitles to be translated into English. So he came up with this idea of using the Microsoft Cognitive Services or Azure Cognitive Services to generate a VTT file, which is subtitles generated from translating the video itself. So in his solution, what Frank did was he used a logic app to look at a folder or a file in OneDrive. Every time a video was added to a particular file or folder in OneDrive, it would generate these subtitles using an indexing service, and then those VTT files would be generated in or translated in English using another cognitive service which is called the translator. So since I already have the VTT file or the subtitles file, I skipped the first part. Now this solution, as I said, works very well if you want to translate only one language. Whereas in my case, I want to support multiple languages or subtitles in multiple languages. So when I tried to look at the logic app, I didn't find a very easy way of looping through a set of languages. Maybe there is a way, but I'm yet to explore that fully. So I looked at Translator, which is an AI service which allows us to translate documents in real time, and it also allows us to do the text translation. All that requires is we go and create a resource in Microsoft Azure which is of the type translator. You just say add resource, search for Microsoft Translator, and you create the resource. You can create as a global resource in any of the global regions, or you can make a resource or create a resource within your specific region. In my case, I created it in Southeast Asia, and you would get a set of API keys here. Now these keys is what we use to make the web API calls or the REST service calls to invoke the translation, and we get the translation endpoint as well. So these three things is what we require when we want to make a call from our code. And then I looked at the quick start for the translators to see how we can use different programming languages like .NET or C#, and then Java, Go, Python. Since I'm familiar with C#, I used the quick start of C#, and then I made some modifications to that. So let's look at the code quickly to see what did I do. So I will switch now to Visual Studio 2022. Again, after a long time I'm coming and using Visual Studio. Since switching over to Visual Studio Code, I had not used Visual Studio for a long period of time. But here I thought let's use it for a while and see what are the new features. So I've created this application, a console application, in such a way that if anybody else wants to use it, they can change the configuration file. Nothing is hard coded here. It is all in the configuration. You can change the configuration file and this program should work as per your needs. So the first thing we do is we define the default video language, which in my case is English. If you are starting with some other language, you can change the language here. And in the documentation for the translator, there are more than 100 languages which are supported. So we need to provide the language code here. And you can find the list of codes which are supported, or list of languages which are supported by a translator, and you can put the respective code here. I've also put in the configuration the region, which, as I said earlier, is Southeast Asia region, Singapore region for me. The translator endpoint is also specified here. In case this changes in future, we again don't have to recompile the whole application. We can change the endpoint, and then the destination folder. Now the destination folder I'm putting here as a configuration because I want to generate around 40 different files. So I'm translating my subtitles into 40 different languages which are listed as a, again, code mapping or code language mapping here, a key value pair for each of the language. Like AF is the code for Afrikaans, SQ for Albanian, AR for Arabic, and so on and so forth. So all these languages again are added as a configuration. You can add more languages or you can remove languages from here if you don't need all of them. And once we have this configuration, we will be looping through all these languages and we generate the files in this particular destination folder. So let's look at the program and see how do we generate these files. So I start by taking the input parameter where I want to take what is the name of the input file. So again, this is taken as a parameter. Instead of putting it as a configuration, I can change it every time. Instead of keeping the file name constant, I can give any file name as an input parameter. I just do a verification here that at least one argument is passed, which is the name of the file. Once we have the name of the file, we read all the contents of that file and store it into a variable. And we also store just the name without the extension because we are going to dynamically generate those 40 files or X number of files. And we use this file name as one of the attributes to generate those files dynamically, file names, translated file names dynamically. So then we convert this, the contents of the English translated or English subtitles files into JSON, and then we loop through the list of languages, the code mapping and the language name and the code of the language, and then we use this method called translate subtitles. Now the translate subtitle methods goes and deciphers what is the language code, language name. Then we build a route which is translate.api. We pass the version at 3.0 and it requires from which language. So this is the default video language which we specified in the application configuration. Then we create a HTTP client, we build a request, and in the request we need to pass some additional headers or the parameters. So we start with the API key. API key is what I showed in the portal. So let me switch back to the portal. Here we have those keys, key 1 and key 2. Any of these keys can be passed as the API key. You can see here that I have not hard-coded the API key anywhere. If you looked at one of my previous video, I talked about 15-factor apps and how to store or how to manage the secrets. So this is an example of secret where I'm not storing this anywhere in my application code, but I'm putting it as an environment variable, and this way I'm protecting the secret from getting exposed. So I will put a link to that earlier video. You can go through that. And we get the API key, then we get the translator region and the translator endpoint. We create a request with the post method and we post this content along with two headers. One is the key which we just extracted or got from the environment variable, and the translator region. So once we have this request and we post this using a post method, we would get the response. So we get the response as we send it as a async request, and then we wait for the response, and then whatever we get as the response, we convert that into the JSON. And as a last step, this is where we take that response that we get. So the response is the translated text in whatever language we requested for the translation, and then we deserialize that object and we write the content of that converted text into the file. And this is where we take that destination folder into account, and we build dynamically the file name, and we also append the language to that. So let's look at this quickly. So in my configuration, I've gone and added the input parameter. So let's go, and instead of the uploader, I need the other file or other project. So let's switch to the Solution Explorer. we need the subtitles generator. That's the project, not the uploader. Not sure why it's not changing. Okay. I have two projects here actually. One is for the uploading, which I'll be covering later, and the other one is for the subtitle generation, and I want the subtitle generator to be here. No problem. Let's do it on the command line. So let's go open Windows terminal. And run this program from the command line. So here I have now navigated to the YouTube generator folder or YouTube generator program, and within that I have a project again called as YouTube subtitles generator. We need to go into the bin folder where our binary would be generated, and then let's go and look at the configuration again, or the list of files again. So now here we can see that there is this exe, which is YouTube subtitles generator.exe, and its respective configuration file .config is also there, along with all the other dependencies. So now what we are going to do is we are going to invoke this YouTube subtitles generator, and we pass the name of the file. So let's go ahead and do that. So we go YouTube subtitles generator, and we need the exe. So either we can put .exe here, or we can leave it blank, but let's put the .exe, and then we need to pass the command line argument, which is the name of the input file. So this we will take from the downloads, and the file that we downloaded as part of our initial example that I showed you how I generate the files, SRT file. Actually we need a VTT file, so let me take the captions.vtt in this case instead of SRT, or I can take test with RBH headsets. This is a small one, so since we are doing a quick demo here, let me take this file. So I need this complete path of the file. So let's invoke this with the name of the file. So we get the output or a console message saying that the name of the file is whatever we inputted, and then we can see that every language it is trying to translate that file. So the output of that translated file is written to the console, and we also write it to the translated output folder. So let's switch to the translated output folder and see the contents as they get generated. So when we started, this folder was empty, and you can see that it is 9:20 p.m. my time, and these files have been generated just now. So we have the Malay file generated, Swedish, Filipino, Korean, Arabic. Maybe we can open one of them and see how it looks like. So let me take the one where I'm comfortable with, or at least I can say that it is correct or not. Let's look at a couple of them. One is the Hindi, which is one of my known languages, and we can also look at one of the other language. So let's go and look at maybe Italian. So here we can see that the file has been translated into Italian, and all the text has been converted into the Italian language. Now the file was very small which I was using. It's just about 2 minutes video. So we have the distribution of text or the text segments translated, and that is how these subtitles or closed captions they get converted. So let me also look at the Hindi one which I was trying to open earlier. So here we can see that it has been converted into Hindi as well, and we do have things which are mixed because I use the technical terms like Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS or Azure. So in this case the translator is intelligent enough to identify that these are English or technical words, and it doesn't convert those, but whatever other things I'm speaking in English, those are getting converted into the language that I translated into. So let's switch back to the translation folder, and we can see let's select all the files, and let's see how many of those get converted. So 39 items have been created here, and in my list of configuration I do have 39 languages specified. So let's go back to Visual Studio and let's look at the app configuration here, where I have specified these code mappings, and if you count these languages, these are 39 languages which I'm converting the file into. So with this you can see that in a very easy manner, just with one command, I'm able to save all that manual work and convert this manual process into automation. So what did we do as part of this automation? The first part remains the same, where we upload the video and we generate the subtitles and we verify that those are correctly translated in the default language English. We are not changing anything here. Once that first file is generated, I download that file and then I use this command line tool which I created to translate it using Azure Translator. And I also built this loop part where I pass those configured number of languages, and all those language translations are converted, or all this particular file is converted into all those languages that I specified, and it gets saved into this target folder. The rest of the part still remains the same in this place, where I still have to add the language and I still have to upload those files manually, but at least it saves me half the effort. I don't have to upload individually the file for translation, click on that download, add the language. In the next video I will also show you how we can automate even the second part, where we add the language in the YouTube Studio and we add the individual translated files. I'm working on automating that part as well. So the end-to-end process of generating these subtitles, translating them and uploading to the YouTube video would be taken care in much more smooth manner for me. For now, it is only the translation that I've explained, and we will look at the automation for uploading to YouTube in the subsequent videos. I hope you found this useful. I will provide all the links that I discussed here in terms of the resources for Azure Translator, as well as the link to Frank Boucher's post, as well as YouTube video where he did the translation using Logic Apps. For me, Logic Apps, as I said, didn't work or didn't meet the needs, because I want to translate into multiple languages, and that is where I had to extend the example from the quick starts. So I hope you found this useful. And in case you find this useful, please hit the like button. It motivates me to do what I do, and it encourages me to share more content like this and share more knowledge with you guys. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and thanks once again.